Hello, hello, hello. I am Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL. It is mailbag day. Couple things though. I'm recording this midday on Wednesday, and I was talking about the tidal wave of free agency that's going to be hitting us. Basically, Monday around noon is when the tampering period, legal tampering, which is funny, opens up, and then Tuesday is, actually the start of the league year is noon on Monday, which means every team has to be cap compliant. We're seeing a lot of little trades, bigger trades, releases. So right now, the tidal wave hasn't hit, but the waves are picking up, and they are starting to hit us with regularity, ready to crush the town. And I'm hoping that there's some Steeler news too. I think that that's a possibility here for sure. Trading for a receiver or signing a receiver that's not a UFA, or frankly, getting one of these quarterbacks inked. And I don't have a scoop, but I am leaning towards it being Fields, and I totally understand that. We'll react to it, of course, the second it happens. But in the meantime, I did a podcast yesterday that a lot of you seem to really enjoy, of what to do at 21. We know a little bit more now. The combine's in the books, and a lot of you guys have pivoted off that. There's some great comments in the section there, especially on YouTube. And Ben Cohen kind of reiterates that. He says, "Hey, Matt, great episode today discussing 1.21, the first round pick. 2 questions for you. At what point are you too high on a player like Shuck? Is it time to go back to the tape, or just to make sure?" And I'll get to your other questions too, Ben, because you got a couple really good ones. I don't know that you can ever be high enough or too high on to whatever you think is a potential franchise quarterback. Those guys don't grow on trees. I think Shuck is a potential franchise quarterback. Tyler Shuck from Louisville. I keep going back to the tape. I keep watching more and more. I keep getting more and more opinions. I keep seeing size and weights that are official and good 40 times and plus athletes. And what are you willing to spend? I mean, again, if the genie came out of the bottle, I would not give you 21 right now, but I would give you the second round pick, because I think he's a potential franchise quarterback. And I don't throw that term around loosely. To me, that's, I don't know, Tua or better. Dak Prescott's a franchise quarterback. If you could get that type of dude, and maybe he'll never be Josh Allen, but could he be in the tier below those guys? Maybe. I mean, most guys don't hit that you think are. Trevor Lawrence isn't there yet. But if you think he could be, I don't know what is too expensive. I'm not sure how to answer that. But Ben also asks, and this is a good name too, what excludes Harmon from being taken at 1.21, defensive tackle from Oregon? He's got Steeler energy. I love him. He's close for me. And I did mention him yesterday. I didn't ignore him. And I think that he has a chance to be the pick there. And he's very disruptive. He's definitely more 3-4 end than he is nose. He's not a nose. He's got kind of a weird body, and he plays that way. He's a little top heavy. I wish his bottom half was thicker, stronger, stouter for early down work. But I do think he can rush the passer and be disruptive, which is a great place to start, obviously. So he's on the fence for me. I mean, I'm not slam dunk. I love him. Boy, he'd be a great Steeler. I also think when you look at his athleticism, and his testing also kind of reflected this, he's a little bit straight line-ish. Like his 40 and things like that are better than his change of direction stuff. So is that worth that pick? Maybe. Again, he's a great name to bring up, because I think he's about as borderline as you can get for me for the Steelers' first round pick. And then Ben, because he had 2 good ones, I let him throw this third one in there too. Also, if you have time, and hey, I got time, Ben. Thoughts on Tyleik Williams, nose tackle, Ohio State. Did you hear anything in Indy? I'm really interested in him as well. I am too. He is a pure nose, though. I mean, I don't think you're going to get much pass rush out of him at all. I mean, but he is sucking up double teams. He sure would have been useful against the Ravens, in these 3 games they played against them. But you really have to look at it like, how many plays is this guy really going to play? I mean, is he out there on 1st and 10? depending what the offense throws at you, yes. Against the Bengals and their 3 wide, no. Against the Ravens with Ricard and 2 tight ends on the field, yeah. But most teams don't play that way. I mean, and I'm not comparing him to Casey Hampton, but it is sort of this mold that I used to say about Hampton all the time. It's also true for like Will Fork, that if you didn't have that player, teams are going to come out and make you defend the run with a lesser nose. They're going to have heavy personnel on the field. In those days, a fullback, an extra tight end. So you need him so you don't get gouged. But if you have him, then the Patriots come out in 3 wide and Brady throws the ball 80% of the time and Hampton's on the sideline watching. And I think Tyleik Williams has similar way of looking at it, that you have to, because you'd love to have him. He's an ideal fit in this scheme as a 3-4 nose. And again, I know the scheme has changed a lot since the Hampton days, but they could still use that plugger and would have a ripple effect of letting Benton go to his more natural position too. I just don't know that that's a first-round pick in today's NFL, because there might be games he plays 15 snaps. There might be games he plays 30, and he is good at what he does, but the pass rush isn't there, and I don't think the pass rush will develop. That doesn't mean he's never going to have a sack, but I don't think he's going to be a disruptive player against the pass ever. But he's really good at what he does. So he's interesting. There's a price for that. I would certainly take him in the second round. And then some teams won't value him even that high. I don't think he gets to the second round. I can't take him in the first. Early too, if you were to trade back. I mean, in that neighborhood, maybe. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA to college basketball to the NHL to UFC. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. We are back with some other good questions here. Steelers Blitz. What positions will they target on day 3 of the draft? Obviously, 2 huge things have to happen before we even get there. The majority of free agency and day 1 and 2 of the draft. So this is certainly crystal ball-like thoughts for me. But I wouldn't mind a third safety with some slot capabilities. That's a bigger bodied guy. I'm talking about day 3 stuff. Maybe a nose, but that would be early day 3. If you went with, a guy like Harmon in the first round, you might get a 4th round nose because this draft is very deep and rich with those guys that you can even count on to play now. That's probably about it from what I see on defense. It's a really deep tight end draft. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I guess you could go back to the well and get a 6th round slot corner to fight Beanie Bishop. That's an undersized guy, but you kind of already have that, and they're not hard to find. I would love to find a project offensive tackle that could redshirt all year. Now, day 3 is not usually the best spot for that. They get sucked up pretty quick too, but maybe you could find a 6'6" dude that needs a lot of work. And I do have some names. I'm not just pulling that out of my butt. But again, tight end makes a lot of sense. If you're aggressive in free agency and added Slayton and Kirk or something like that, or even just one of the two, maybe you still add another receiver for good measure. Depending how quarterback goes, I think you could definitely be on a day 3 quarterback that's not a total throwaway, somebody that you're excited about. And I've brought this up before too, that even if you draft a running back pretty high, a 7th round pick could be a 190-pound returner, running back, explosive, mix him in here and there. type of guy. I mean, good receiver. So we'll see, but those are just the things I'm thinking at this point with that. John Markusik asks, hey, Matt, love your insight in the draft and the Steelers. If the Steelers were signed Fields, would you rather have Daniel Jones, Jacoby Brissett, or some other free agent quarterback to be at number 2? Again, Fields has never finished a season. He has a physical style play that if you sign him, which again I think is quite possible, you can't just ignore the number 2 spot. I adore Jacoby Brissett as this type of guy. I just don't think he's nearly athletic enough. I mean, I think you'd have to run a totally different scheme. Brissett's more of a Wilson type backup in terms of what you'd ask him to do, and I don't think you'd invest as much in a backup if it were Wilson. So I want a running quarterback, and that's what I'm about to say is by no means something that should prevent you from signing Fields if you think he's the right guy. But there's not many names that you could run the exact same offense. Daniel Jones, you could. He is highly athletic, but he's going to be $10 million. I mean, I think there are teams, he keeps getting linked to Indy to compete with Anthony Richardson, and they could run the same offense. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is great, but Daniel Jones is sending Sam Darnold to fruit basket right now saying, I'm the guy people are looking at to try to revitalize their career. That was a top 5 pick. I might get a couple extra million than I probably deserve. Now, it's not super inspiring to put a lot of eggs in the Daniel Jones basket, but if you put a lot of eggs in the Fields basket and a couple eggs in the Daniel Jones basket, I get it. He might revitalize his career. Frankly, I was never big on him coming out of college or, since. Here's some other names, none of which I'm standing on the table for. And frankly, I do think there are some draftable names. Milroe is the one that certainly comes to mind, that you could get in the 3rd, 4th, something like that. That's an athlete runner type. And there are some names to be cut, like Gardner Minshew got cut today. So maybe there's a name I don't yet know. I'm not big on either one of these players. And frankly, I thought they were really bad with Arthur Smith in Atlanta. But Mariota's available. Maybe. I mean, boy, his accuracy's rough. Ritter's available. I mean, these are backups. So, you're not going to set the world on fire. I don't think any of these names are going to super psych you. What about bringing Dobbs back? Joshua Dobbs. Be a good mentor, non-threatening, certainly a runner. Been around the block. I'm sure Tomlin likes him. I'm sure he likes Tomlin. That one I kind of like. How about another shot in the dark? Same draft class. Trey Lance. He'd be pretty cheap. He's shown nothing. But those are the names I came up with, John. I know. Not perfect. Jason Heron asks, you say you don't care that Shuck is older. Do you believe that at that age he'll have limited potential for growth? I see it the other way, where much like Knicks, Jaden Daniels, Penix, I think they come in mature. And if you listen to Shuck talk, you'll think the exact same thing. That he should be able to handle the rigors of being a highly drafted quarterback better than the 20-year-old, the 21-year-old that's just physically and mentally not as developed or better on the block as much. Now, the knock to me, and because it's a quarterback, like I wouldn't say this if it was a defensive end or any other position, because quarterbacks can play really, really long. They can play well into their 30s, borderline, 38 years old. So, okay, you get 13 years out of Shuck as opposed to 16. Okay, I'll take it, Now, what you need to decipher is, I've told this story before. Like, I remember with the year I was with the Browns, I'm a new scout, and we're watching BYU tape, and I forget who they were playing. But this older, grizzled scout kind of leans over to me, and he's like, this BYU offensive line is all 25-year-olds, and they're pushing around 20-year-olds. It's kind of the big brother, little brother thing. Now, is Shuck just having his best season because he's older and better and more physically developed than the people he's playing? I don't know that you could say that a quarterback because you can really isolate the quarterback position. And I'm a fan. So I hope that answers your question. My man Joey Bag of Donuts asks, do you see Omar Khan getting too many wide receivers this year to overcompensate for not having enough last year? It's an interesting way of phrasing it. And I'm going to throw my own question name in there too, because Christian Kirk is basically getting released as I'm recording this. And of all the free agent options that are logical pre-free agency, the cut guys or tradable dudes, I think Kirk's the one most likely to be a Steeler. So maybe that even happens in the next 48 hours or whatever. But Joey, how I would phrase this is I absolutely think they will add someone soon. Like, again, I'm recording this on Wednesday. I can pretty much guarantee a week from now, a wide receiver you heard of will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So that's one. Now, if they go get another, I don't think it's overcompensating for not getting enough last year. But they were short, and that was a tough way to live. But then alarm bells would start going off in my head that Pickens could be on the block. So like if they add 2 in the next week to 10 days, however they do it, I would think now they're fielding offers for Pickens, and then you draft one in the second or third round, or maybe even the first. So I hope that answers your questions, but there's a lot of ways to look at that receiver situation, but I can pretty much guarantee you that the room's going to look a little different. All right, everyone, take care. Over and out.